Thank you. Okay, so to summarize the Abraham Accords in 5 minutes, very easy task. Thank you very much. You know, we can finish it bad. Situation is bad, but I'll give you a few more details and a little bit of hope, maybe hopefully. So we'll start. I'll tell you, if we would to have this conference even 2 months ago, I would have been so much more optimistic because, you know, the trajectory was amazing. And I'll tell you a personal experience. Even when I was chief of staff in Washington last year, and we were sitting and we were celebrating a 1-year anniversary for the Abraham Accords, and there was this big event, and you know, the ambassador for the UAE is standing up there and he's gushing about Israel and the trade and the opportunities, and we're sitting there pitching ourselves and we're like, is he real? Is he serious? And then the Bahraini ambassador goes up, the same thing. And then, of course, our ambassador goes up. And it was a beautiful festival of hope and optimism. And then the Egyptian ambassador comes up to speak. And then, of course, I'm paraphrasing, but the Egyptian ambassador is standing up there and he's like, what are you guys so excited about? I mean, we are the ones who came up with the idea of peace with Israel. Okay, it was our idea. We came up with it 40 years ago. What the hell's going on here? Why are you taking credit for this? And we're like, you know, we almost fell out of our chairs. And so I'm telling my colleague, look, I mean, up until a year ago, they fought over who hates us more, who's done a better job delegitimizing us, killing us, etc. And now they're fighting over whose idea it was to have peace with Israel. It's amazing. And so since then, I don't know if you guys follow, but there was the first ever Holocaust Memorial Day service in Cairo last year, in Holocaust Memorial Day. Oh, again, it was unbelievable. The Holocaust denial is so ingrained in the culture. They never even recognized there was a Holocaust, let alone have an event that actually commemorates the Holocaust in Cairo. So there's, you know, so many great developments, and of course we followed the fact that Saudi Arabia allowed for Israeli planes to go over, and like, you know, we as good Jews, we sit down and every time someone seems to like us, we get so excited because we got so used to the fact that they all hate us, and it's just a part of our life's story. Okay, now bad developments. Unfortunately, you know, looking at Saudi Arabia, the Saudis are very smart and very careful. They also have a very important role to play in the Arab world and in the Muslim world. And they were kind of sitting and waiting to see what will happen. And the preference of the Saudis, what the Saudis wanted to see, is they wanted to make sure that there is a way for them to protect themselves against the Iranian threat. And the Iranian threat is very real to them, okay? If you just look at the map, and of course Iran controls the Gulf on one end, and then you have Yemen on the other side of it, and which is why, you know, there is so much motivation for Iran to invest in the Houthis, because if they just, you know, if they closed on, you know, Saudi Arabia from both sides, that's it. There's no way to come in and out of the Gulf. And of course, you know, Saudi's whole economy is built on the fact that they ship in and out, especially oil and gas and products like that. And then, of course, there was the attack on their oil fields. Absolutely no retaliation, no assistance, no one stood up. The Americans did absolutely nothing. Then the Biden administration, of course, as you guys all know, started shaming them, you know, condemning them on the international stage. The relationship has just went backwards and backwards. Talks about returning to the JCPOA. Basically, the Saudis have come to the conclusion that I can't use a bad word now, but you get my, you know, they're in a problem, okay? Let's put it very gently. They have a problem. And so what do? The Saudis don't have an army, by the way. I mean, they have an army, but not really. I mean, the problem with the Saudis is that they have a lot of foreign workers. They're not citizens. The citizens are primarily, let's say, are very rich or very spoiled. They don't have a culture of actual employment. A lot of people never worked for a living. Okay, now, by the way, it's an interesting, if I had more time, I would have told you about some of the reforms that MBS has created in Saudi Arabia, including, you know, inserting the culture of working, you know, getting people professions, education that is not just a nice title to put on your wall and say I'm a professor of whatever, but actually, you know, working and building an industry. And so there are a number of changes in Saudi Arabia, but bottom line, their army sucks, okay? There is no army, and they have to spend a lot of time, perhaps generations, in creating a real army of soldiers. It's not just about money. It's not about technology. It's not about, just about having a plane that costs a lot of money. By the way, the US is not letting them have some of the more advanced, let's say, weaponries. So anyway, they look at Israel and they say, look, this is an impressive nation, small nation, no money. We just now discovered gas, in the last few years. I don't know if you know the joke that Moses walked through the desert for 40 years just to find one piece of land. Doesn't have gas or oil in the entire Middle East. So the joke is not valid anymore. Thank God we have gas. But even with all those challenges, Israel was able to build a very, very impressive army. Thank God, and it's really is the reason of our survival and our existence. And so the Saudis are looking at Israel and saying, we can learn from them. Technology, military technology. I mean, they understand the Iranian threat. They are just as scared of the Iranians. They are more determined to fight the Iranians than anyone else in the world. And so this is a part of the reason. Second of all, I mean, they kind of lost track of why this hostility was there all along, honestly, which is interesting. They kind of lost track of why, they were so determined to be so hostile and hateful toward the Jews and toward the Israelis, and started kind of moving away from that. And you hear some religious clerks all of a sudden talking about, well, the Palestinians are fake people, stuff like that, which is very impressive. Bottom line, they've moved away from that because now they feel like that there's no one that will be able to protect them against Iran. And so what they did is, in my interpretation of it, is that they signed a surrender agreement. That's what it is with Iran. And basically that is, at least temporarily, is putting China in a position that they can perhaps guarantee some sort of a status quo in terms of their security and safety. And so if you ask my opinions, they don't like it at all. By the way, news from today, I see that the Chinese are pressing them to pay for their oil in yuan rather than dollars. So just think about what that can do to the international economy and the fact the monopoly that the dollar has over international trade, especially when it comes to energy. This is a major move by China, a major, major, major move, and we all need to be very aware of that. So I think they're looking for a way out. They are looking for a way out, and so there is still an opportunity to leverage. And now we're sitting here in Europe. I mean, we can't count on the next US elections. God willing, there will be an administration that understands the strategic importance of alliances in the United States. But, there's not much that we all can do here. But what we can do is that we can look at Europe and say, it's time for you guys to step up. Step up. The Saudis and the Gulf states are looking for their responsible adult. The Americans failed them. I mean, if you just say the United States are around these people, they get really mad and frustrated. China is not really a reliable ally. I don't think they want to be in bed with the Chinese. They certainly don't want to be in bed with Iran. So it's time for Europe to step up. I know they don't like to step up. They only like to talk, and it's a real problem. But there is an opportunity in terms of economy, military, strategic agendas. So each and every one of us, I think it's time for us to go and lobby our countries, our governments, and say, you have a strategic opportunity here to go back on the international stage, be the responsible adult, and take away from this crazy alliance that was created in the Middle East that completely threw Israel under the bus, just as a side note, because I don't think they care. All right, yeah, that's it. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.